All right, welcome back to another season of New Game Plus. I'm your host, Jason O'Callaghan, and we have another great season of shows to put on for you. And first one out of the door is sadly us really hard shilling on stuff. Hey, like we shill Microsoft first with a bit of Game Pass. We shill Nintendo with a bit of, I can't really explain this segment, but we'll just say new year, new us. And we have a review of Kakarot as well. So lots and lots for you to watch and enjoy. But for now, something completely different.
Hey, it's B from New Game Plus TV sometimes, and I'm here in Melbourne, the most Melbourne-y place possible, talking about Coffee Talk. This is pretty good coffee, but it is a video game, and it is one of those sort of visual novel kind of things, but not really. So basically, Coffee Talk is you are a barista and you hear, you have all these people coming around, getting coffee from you, you have your regulars. Really cool, kind of mundane, other than the fact that, you know, they have the same sort of worries as everybody else. So you're listening to their stories. So the thing with this is that you don't really have choices in the traditional sort of like, this person has said this thing, how do you want to react? This is more of a, you're listening to them, they ask for a drink. If you make it correctly, you open up more choices, more things happen. If you make it wrong, they're still there, they're a little disappointed, but they're not gonna be as open with what they wanna talk about, which I thought was really interesting. It's gorgeous, by the way. Pixel art, it's simple. It's a visual novel. It's just a simple pixel art, but it just feels so, it feels so good. So if you have a chance, if you like reading, if you like gorgeous art, pick up Coffee Talk. You get to do some latte art sometimes. And there's also an endless mode as well if you just want to make coffee, but play it twice and enjoy. I didn't drink the coffee.
Now, it's no secret that last generation, when Microsoft launched the Xbox One, they absolutely screwed the pooch. Between always online, there's a console you can always play that doesn't use online, it's called the Xbox 360, between all the things that Don Matrick and co did, Connect, all those things that they did to just drag that system down as far as they can. It's amazing that Microsoft even survived in that space, right? So the other thing that got to them was that PlayStation did PlayStation Plus. It became a thing where, because you have the subscription service attached, and because PS3's subscription service was free, they had to add on a value add when they started charging you for it. So they started giving you away free games at the end of the console cycle. It's a great initiative, and then Microsoft picked up on it, and then everyone it became the norm. The new norm has become subscription services, and Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass, as sad as it is to admit, is genuinely one of the best value propositions out there at the moment.
How is that sad?
Because you don't like to shill for companies. Yeah, no one's introduced you, you fucking idiot. It doesn't matter. No one likes shilling for companies, but unfortunately, when they do the right thing, you kind of have to shill for them a little bit, I think.
Well, it's not even shilling, because it is honestly like this. I feel like over the last 2 years, as we've seen subscription services, move more and more, because like as much as you talk about PlayStation Plus as a competitor, it was very much a different value proposition, right? It was like
but it didn't exist at that point. There was nothing else to compare. There was no Xbox Games of Gold.
Since there's been PlayStation Now, which is even more limited in Australia. EA/Origin Access, which is EA specific, obviously. Apple Arcade. It's happened more and more, but Xbox Game Pass seems to provide the best value out there so far.
Yeah, and it's just simply because it's obviously all the Xbox stuff, so all the Microsoft stuff that they've produced in-house, Halo, Gears, will all be exclusive to things, State of Decay, all those great games. But they don't, there's a bunch of reasonably good, even just straight up, indie stuff on there, Galea. They're worth, at the very least, having a try, because, it's there. You know
exactly. I mean, and also, if you're like me and you're a little bit broken, it could also allow you to fulfill some weird curiosity. Like, I don't want to pay $70 for Jump Force, or Naruto to Boruto, or
Sword Art Online.
Or some Sword Art Online crap. Thank you. But I'm like, you know what? Look, I'm paying a reasonably priced subscription. I'm like, okay, I can take a punt on this, and I won't feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's the discoverability. I think that the fact that it's trying to emulate the Netflix discoverability is probably its greatest strength. Is that you have a look at it, you go, oh, what's on the Game Pass? Oh, that's on. Oh, they've just got Final Fantasy.
Yeah, you were talking about indies, but it's like Final Fantasy 15 is there.
Tekken 7.
The almost full edition. Tekken 7, Witcher 3, some of the best games of this generation are there on Xbox Game Pass. And if you're paying the subscription, it's what, 10, 15-ish a month. It's cool.
Yeah, and I guess that is the thing as well. Like, it's got to be said that it is in and of itself still a selling tool. So if you have it and you play Witcher, it's the Witcher base game. But that said, the Witcher base game is still 60 hours, 70 hours of
At
thing.
least.
Yeah, you don't get the expansions, which are great, and they probably want you to buy the expansions. That's why it's only the base game. It's on there. Like, that's the joke. Do you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, you know, like it is that thing of, well, you've just seen it on Netflix. Why not play the video game? Like,
I mean, that's what happened. That's what happened when the game was on sale on Steam recently.
yeah.
It's crazy.
But I mean, around subscription services as well, like we've seen more of that come through. But Xbox Game Pass, like you look at PlayStation now, it's not really in Australia
it's
at all.
awful, yeah.
Like they focus so hard on having a live streaming platform. Google Stadia worked out real well, guys. Cool. And so PlayStation turned around and was like, oh, I guess we'll just let you download the games. But they're not even that good. And so I think that's the big point of difference is not only are they good like big games on the platform, there are like a lot of the indie games that you might not necessarily drop 20, 30, 40 bucks on. You're like, or the Weeb games, if you're a little bit broken. and you know, kind of test the waters. All you have to lose is time.
I mean, Goose Game as well. Like, Goose Game justifies you.
Is that on Game Pass?
Yes,
Absolutely
it is.
So, like, you know, even that in and of itself, you know, it is that thing of. So, from my point of view, like, I wanted to play. Like, I converted my. So, one thing you can do is convert a bunch of your gold time to Xbox Live Game Pass for $1. So, I did that. I bought 2 years of Xbox Live Gold, converted it for $1. So already I'm ahead. Already I'm ahead. Like, I haven't paid nothing. And so I've done that, and I've just converted. I'm like, cool, this is sweet. So I re-downloaded GTA and I played through that because I had it nearly finished save file. Yeah, well, no, GTA 5 was a good game. Nearly finished save file. I've downloaded Ruiner, played through most of that. I downloaded Mutiny Zero, which had I played it when it the year it came out, it would have contended for my game of the year. I love it. It's one of my favorite game series.
Yeah, pushes Red Dead Redemption 2 right off.
Don't even. Anyway, but like the moral story is, I think that the one thing that they've been smart on, and this is something you could argue that Phil Spencer's been the spearhead of, is they've been smart on the content that they've tried to curate for it. And I think that is probably the difference between it and a lot of the other bundles, where they just think, well, the other ones just seem to be taking what they can get. There seems to almost be like a specific, like there seems to be some forethought put into what games they're actually putting on Game Pass. I would argue that's what separates
Like,
it.
there's, you look at the list on Game Pass, and it's like, there's actually not a lot of really bad stuff on here. Like, even like, okay, I joke about things like Sword, I joke about things like Jump Force, but it's also, like, that's just like a small part of it. There's also things like A Plague Tale Innocence, which is on there, which is great. No one played it last year, but it's really, really cool. But there's also stuff like Goose Game or Pillars of Eternity, where it's just like,
all the Wasteland games are on there.
Yeah. So again, some genuinely good stuff on there. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's not bad. It's good curation.
Yeah.
Curation's not a bad thing. Who the fuck it?
Well, I think your point about the curation, like, it's kind of reached the midpoint where it's like, okay, we can justify this from a company perspective because these games are not like the most expensive for us to buy onto Game Pass for that period of time.
Or least for that time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they have the kind of flexibility to kind of pick and choose as they go. And because these games can time out, it's like, cool, they're not locking themselves in. They have more flexibility to give you more opportunities to play different kinds of games. And I think that's a really compelling opportunity as well.
There's another discussion we had about whether we're saturating the market with too many subscription services, but that is a conversation for another day. We're not going to have the time to cover it today, boys. But genuinely, I think, like, of all the current things out there, all the current pushes to try and get you to sign up before the next gen consoles, I think Microsoft have now. I wonder what Sony's going to do to try and counter it, because at the moment, you know, converting gold time for $1 into Game Pass for as long as you have gold time, that's crazy to me. It's insane value. And I know why they're doing it, because they want you to stay in their ecosystem. I get the reasoning, but goddamn, like, I've played so many games. I've played more games recently than I have in a long time. So I don't know what to tell you. It's definitely worth checking out. At very least, like, turn your Game Pass time into it just to try it out to see what it's like. All right, it is the new year for New Game Plus. I didn't even realize that was going to work, but it did. And so it's time to discuss what you can do to, I don't know, rejuvenate your life. Be a new you. It's a new year, new you. And I've decided to bring both Matt and Jamie, Matt and Donald, I should say, to discuss.
How dare you?
I know, Ring
We're
Fit
sitting
and
here
Brain
playing with each other's rings, and you sit there completely
Okay,
botching the intro.
get them out of your system now, because the ring jokes are. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Okay,
hands
we're
up.
good. We're good.
Hands up.
I'm fine.
All right.
I'm fine.
All
Okay.
right. So we figured we would discuss probably two of the most recent Nintendo games that have. I guess one is an old classic and it's coming back, and one has just kind of taken. It's done for the Switch what kind of Wii Fit did for the Wii, and that is Ring Fit. Ring Fit has been an absolute phenomena when it comes to people playing it and actually taking it somewhat seriously as like a weight loss device.
No, yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like, Wii Fit was kind of like an introduction to sort of gamifying exercise, but ultimately it was kind of just a mini game compilation with the scale attached.
Yeah.
This one commits much more to the bit in trying to get you back and regularly exercising. Well, with the incorporation of a full RPG campaign, like complete with a storyline in which you try to take down this giant bodybuilder dragon.
And you play with each other's rings.
Also,
So
yeah.
it's
Sorry, now I'm done. Now I'm
Yeah.
done.
so it's like what's Street Pass, but you like instead of just randomly bumping into people on the street, you actually have to like exercise.
It's more like you run on trails. Along the way, you'll run into enemies. You'll then have to use exercise to try and defeat. So, so this enemy is weak to leg exercises. So do 30 squats, you. This one is weak to arm exercises. So do some tricep curls. Why don't you?
It's squeezy time, right? Okay.
Yeah, and along the way, it even has the RPG trappings of you're leveling yourself up, you're building out a skill tree, and I almost said that your character model is sort of getting more buff as you level up.
Yeah, right.
Little
Yeah.
attention to details like that are cool.
Yeah.
And I think the key of this, like compared to what Wii Fit probably didn't get right, and why so much of the game was pretty much like stopped right there. There was no longevity. Was just the fact that they've gamified this game a lot better than say some of the other fitness games that Nintendo has kind of dabbled their feet into.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think Ring Fit Adventure, as far as everything goes, this is probably their most cohesive attempt yet.
Well, because that was always the meme. Was always like you had Wii tennis in nursing homes, like Wii Sports. You had the tennis in nursing homes, and Mum had the Wii Fit board that she was then selling for $5 10 years later at some garage sale. So it was like it never really got the attention and I guess the specific kind of proper gamification that seems like Ring Fit has.
Yeah, and I think it's honestly much better keeping you engaged, keeping you involved, keeping you invested as well. Again, the story mode's all silly. It's silly enough that people can just throw this suspension of disbelief out the window and go, yeah, you know what, this is kind of cool, but hey, you know, it's still cheaper than a gym membership for an entire year, so.
Although I can also see this falling the same way of like, it'll just sit in the corner gathering dust alongside your treadmill and your hopes and dreams of New Year.
Or someone will program it so people will actually be doing speedruns of Dark Souls while playing with this.
There is actually a speedrunning community that is being formed for Ring Fit Adventures.
Of course.
Yes, to complete the game, apparently the record is like 19 hours at the moment. And there's this footage of someone like who's like 3/4 of the way through a stream, but they're just broken because they've been exercising for 12 hours straight. But they're like, the game is kind of just compelling in that regard, like, can keep you going. And even as an exercise thing, like there are themes to each of the worlds. So like this world is leg world, so you'll spend a while concentrating on your legs. This world is yoga world, so you can focus, so you can worry about that. Like
My favorite is
like,
Glutes World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about those those wide squats.
Don't tell you about the white spots, Donald Duong 2020.
Yeah, but like it does feel like there was some thought to the exercise. It almost as if the game is giving you an exercise regime, so you're targeting different areas of your bodies in each session. So it's well thought out.
One only quick thing I would say to that is that it seems like obviously as a result then it's more cardio and core strength. You're not, obviously you can't lift to it, do you know what I
No,
mean? 'Cause,
like at most you're doing body weight level exercise. So it's definitely not going to be an exercise replacement. You're not going to get swole as a result of this, but it's a good supplement on a rainy day, or it's a good gateway drug towards getting into the habit of exercising.
Well, I think it's like an off day thing when if you want to go lift and be a big boy, then you go do that on the 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, you can do that.
And then you just supplement it with that. I guess the other thing,
like my what's it called, my cartoonish sway there. Arms here to show that I'm not that, but I'm very much committing to this whole Ring Fit Adventure regime, and I'm enjoying it.
one other one we should mention is brain training.
Yes.
So Dr. Kawashima's brain training, which always came across as something legit, but it really wasn't. And basically, it was a mixture of Sudoku at a time when Sudoku was a big deal, and just a lot of like little quick, snappy exercises designed to train your brain. Was the argument? What's your brain age?
Yeah.
It's like sounds like you're just like harvesting down at the mortuary. But like, I guess have you guys had much chance to play much of Dr. Kawashima?
So I've actually played more brain training than I have with Ring Fit Adventure.
Yeah.
So I personally prefer.
So you went mage as opposed to warrior.
Yeah, like I prefer logic and intelligence over the physics of the man. So I
Give me
play-
your milk money.
Yeah,
Well
so
done, well
I'm
done.
a big fan of that. So it's very similar to the DS version. Devilish Brain Training was a bit more kind of like if you really are a bad dude and you really want to challenge, then go nuts. And Brain Training is kind of like a return to form, so the original DS version, where you've got a whole bunch of these exercises, like pick the highest number, do
Basic
calculations
math,
very quickly, basic calculations immediately, your times tables, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of mini games that have returned, and then there's also new ones which take advantage of the IR sensor on the right Joy-Con, which allows you to do stuff like
So
this.
it's not just shaving in 1-2 switch anymore.
Not just shaving in 1-2 switch or eating like. There's actually things involved like having to do a bunch of like finger calculations. So you do like you say 2, 2, and then you have to go 4. The tracking is surprisingly good. Even with particular games where you got to do like a rock paper scissors, and like the game will tell you to lose or tell you to win or tell you to draw immediately. Really fun stuff. Very accurate IR representation. However, I wish the same that could be said for the actual the algorithm that's used for reading numbers. Because enjoy having to re-enter 4, 9, 6s all the time, because it feels like it's the technology that's been ripped straight from the 2005 version. And sometimes it messes your calculations up.
Well, because it used to be okay on the thing, because it was obviously instead of being haptic feedback or like tactile feedback, it was pressure. So it was like,
I feel like it's worse. Actually,
I was going to say, because it's a touchscreen. It's a capacitive touchscreen and not a resistive touchscreen.
Yes.
It will be worse because it's using the wrong technology to pick it up. So, but I mean, do you still think that it was worth? Do you still think it's worth your time for that kind of the same shenanigans? I know there's multiplayer attached to it now and stuff.
Yeah, the multiplayer is okay. It feels a little bit kind of tacked on, I guess. Even though like that's the first thing you do when you boot up the game, you immediately see like, would you like to quick play or brain training? So like they throw it straight in your face, but you don't usually touch it because it is a game that is primarily used for one player only. So again, there's a couple of new exercises that are kind of alright. I do prefer the more legacy ones, and Sudoku also. They give you a crap load of Sudoku puzzles, which I'm all about. So I just went straight for that primarily. But as far as everything goes, like again, if you like the DS version, there's a lot there that's still there that's familiar. The IR stuff you tend to get a bit tired of because the game gives you a choice whether or not you want to jump into it, and then there are times where you just can't. When you're on the train or whatever, and you look like an idiot doing this or like doing that or something like that.
I do that all the time, and I get all the space that I want on the train.
Anyway, look, I guess on that note, it just goes to show you that the Switch is what now it's the Steam console, it's the hentai console, and it's again going to become the normie console. So what is it that Switch can't do? So Jamie tries to convince us to watch more Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super with Kakarot.
遅くなってすまなかった。あとはオラが何とかする。お父さん。悟空。
まだゴミが残っていたのか。
The last decade proved to be a massive one for the Dragon Ball franchise. Aside from celebrating its 30th anniversary, there was a brand new anime in the form of Dragon Ball Super, and we got the incredibly exciting release of Dragon Ball FighterZ. It'd be fair to say Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has a lot to live up to, but as the first Dragon Ball product of a new decade, it falls short on a lot of fronts. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is the latest game to attempt an adaptation of the Dragon Ball Z storyline, kicking off with Raditz coming to Earth, right up to Goku's final battle with Buu. Where Kakarot differs from the many fighting games that have attempted to capture the entire series in a single game, is that Kakarot isn't a fighting game. Rather, it's an action RPG. Combat is where you'll be spending most of your time, and it's decent for what it is. It takes some of the ideas from the arena fighter style of game that Dragon Ball's famous for, and simplifies it to work better as a single player RPG. For instance, you have an optional mechanic to slow down the action when choosing a super attack, plus enemies have stun bars you can whittle down to, well, stunned enemies. The best thing about combat is just how mobile your characters are. Dodging and weaving around attacks feels fantastic, and pulling off a good dodge is really satisfying. Despite all that, there's really not that much depth to the actual fighting. Once the game introduces everything within the first hour or so, it doesn't really add much more. Every character you play as feels identical to one another, not to mention every encounter in the game feels equally similar. You get in your attacks, duck out when your opponent's about to do their big attack, rinse and repeat. Fighting Frieza and the Cybermen should never feel almost identical. When you're not fighting, you're doing everything this kind of game has to offer. Leveling up, filling out skill trees, doing side quests, taking part in mini games, so on and so forth. All of it's fine, if a bit repetitive and uninspired, but like the fighting system, moving around the world is quick and satisfying, and flying feels really fun. Sadly,
Kakarot ultimately doesn't really do anything different or special in bringing the Dragon Ball Z story to gaming. Even with the game being nearly one-to-one in terms of the adaptation, and featuring moments and characters too obscure or one-note for most other Dragon Ball Z games, it doesn't shake the fact that not a single moment of the story has any real impact. There are far too many fights that end early, leaving your character beat in the cutscene before you immediately go fight that same opponent again, and this time you beat them for some reason. Every significant plot moment is resolved in a cutscene, and not one you can interact with. Occasionally you'll get a cutscene during a fight that shows your moves having some impact, but it's far too rare. For a story that has some incredible highs, it's disappointing to see it's presented without making you feel like anything matters. When there are Dragon Ball games released nearly 20 years ago to take the source material and do something interesting with it, you know there's something not quite right here. In many ways, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot could have been the best Dragon Ball Z game yet. There hasn't been a game that's taken the source material and brought so much of it to a game before, yet at the same time, the game refuses to make any moment have any impact. At the end of it all, it wants to be the Super Saiyan of Dragon Ball Z games, but it just ends up being the Yamcha.
Well, it doesn't sound like he wants us to watch more Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super, so I figured I'd bring him and Matt into this. What the fuck are you... Doesn't matter.
He's been doing this the whole time.
I know, it doesn't matter. But I guess it doesn't sound like you think that Kakarot is necessarily worth the investment of time.
No, I mean, like, it's really weird to think about it.
Who's it for? Who's it for?
I mean, like, I'd say, well, it's for the Dragon Ball Z fan, but it's like, hang on, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you've seen the story.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen the story for over the last 20 years. Okay, let me just put it, like, I would say between us three, we have played the majority of Dragon Ball Z games.
If not all of them, and Dragon Ball games to go with it.
Yeah. So, like, this is not a new story. Like, and then at the same time, it's like, the game is, I don't think the game is that good enough. It's like, well, you could just go, like, you can literally watch Dragon Ball Z for free legally these days. It's like, why would you want to go play a subpar RPG?
Could I suggest that they are trying to get the new people who started watching Super, and I don't think there are that many people who started watching Super. I think Super, if anything, connects and thing. But they're like, oh, if you want to catch up on Dragon Ball, you can go back. Or do you think it is genuinely trying to just reinvigorate that Dragon Ball audience?
See, I don't necessarily think it's the content that's the issue.
Yeah.
I think it's the way it's presented.
Yeah.
So now, I used to be like a massive fan of the old GBA Legacy of Goku games because they were just straight up action RPG and they were fine for what they were. Now, with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, my big draw is that it's an action RPG as well. So I thought, that's it, I'm in, I'm down.
Yeah.
But as a developer, CyberConnect 2 are well known for a lot of their, like, they're massive anime nerds.
Yeah.
They do really good. Azura's Wrath. They're really good at just geeking out and really, like, their attention to detail is absolutely second to none when it comes to the field of making anime games. Now, Azura's Wrath is great, but Dragon Ball Z Kakarot doesn't have any of those defining moments, and all those moments that should be defining, they do absolutely nothing with. I mean, like, where was the whole entire arc of Snake Way when Goku dies after defeating Raditz? None of it whatsoever. It's just a single cutscene. Yeah, that's all it is.
And that's all the problem with it. Like, so much like with Matt with CyberConnect 2, like, I've been playing a bunch of their Naruto games lately because I don't want to read or watch Naruto.
That's a good strat.
I love anime, but F Naruto.
And a lot of it is just like, okay, all these great hype moments, they actually make it into quick time events. Like, I mean, sure, they're interactive cutscenes. Let's not beat around the bush.
But they're immersive.
Yeah, like they actually contribute. Like if you feel like you're contributing to the story, you're seeing all this great stuff happening. And don't get me wrong, like all the stuff they do in Kakarot is like, okay, they've got the framing right, they've got the dialogue right, they've got everything about it. It looks really, the cutscenes look really nice. I'm not gonna lie, but just you could do more about this. Like you could make the Frieza and Goku fight that includes the Frieza arc, which is probably one of the best moments in the series, or hell, even the Gohan Cell fight at the end of the Cell arc. It's like, you could make such cool shit out of this.
Yeah.
And you just make it into a cutscene. It's like...
The Syndicate Enemy just says it just seems like they're ticking off the boxes. The game a year that has to be made for Namco Bandai / the Toei license, and this is this year's game.
Unfortunately, that's the case. Like, just... The last decade's been really cool for Dragon Ball, where they've been kind of going into more weird territory with things like Xenoverse and, I guess, kind of more Dragon Ball heroes. But it's like, this just feels like, okay, we're making a Dragon Ball Z game, and it's all we're going to do. I'm like, great, this is not for me.
Well, if you want another safe bet, though, all I'm going to say is you should check out NewGamePlus.tv. Don't forget to check out our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all that good stuff at New Game Plus TV. Because we have hit the end of another show. Thank you guys for joining us, but we will see you next week.